In episode 1, we played Kiss and Tell. In episode 2, we'll be playing Fight and Tell. You're listening to Raising Butterflies.
Okay, so like I told you, when we were on the chair, like most of your weight was just on me, and like you weren't really like in the squat position. Like the time when we were on the bed, which in my preference I was better able. So when you got on top of the chair, like there was just really nothing happening. So I was like, until we changed position, then the boner came back and I was excited because now I was about to do something. So I don't know why you out here bringing up ED and shit, but then it's really cool for you, It's really okay, man.
Say what you want about girlies who share screenshots. I'm one of them, so here we are.
But like, why you always wait to fight me? You just always wanna argue, bruh. Like, I don't get you, like I really don't. But then, it's fine. Just do you, Like, it don't touch me one bit. Like, I really don't give a shit. I genuinely don't care. Like, for real. From the bottom of my heart, I don't fucking care. Now you're gonna make me seem like a bad person because you started this shit. But like, I don't care.
Ooh, child, I'm not a bird person. What, like a bird watcher? A bad person? Oh.
Uncontrollable ejaculation. I freaking pulled out.
You'll see in the screenshots that I complained about an instance where he nearly nutted in me without a condom. I had to clarify for him that the uncontrollable ejaculation I was talking about is the thing that he calls wispy dick.
Wispy dick is when your dick is wet. It's got nothing to do with an erection. It's just a wet dick, just like how your pussy gets wet. So what's your point? I'm not in the mood to text you because I don't know what's wrong with you right now. So yeah.
So when this argument started, I didn't want to use voice notes and I was typing. You'll notice in one of the screenshots I said, fuck your voice notes, type faster. And that was me being mean because I know that he can't type as fast as I do, or read as fast as I do. So I skipped forward in the written discussion to the part where I eventually started to use voice notes myself because I was pretty heated at that point. So this is what I said in response to his voice note about wispy dick. And now, about the wispy dick, is it normal to stand there drizzling like oodles and oodles of jizz throughout the sexual encounter? There is a start and a finish to ejaculation for a healthy cock. Everybody knows that. There's pre-cum sometimes when a man is very excited at the start of the encounter, but it's a very small amount. It's potent to get a woman pregnant, but it's a small amount. You had literal, like, actual sperm, just like drizzling the whole time. That's what happened that day. You had to change the condom several times. You had to change condoms before you had cum because they were full of sperm. Pre-cum, normal pre-cum is semen. That's the clear liquid and a very small amount of it. You have a different issue altogether, my nigga. You have a problem.
I know I don't have ED. I wake up with a boner every day, Not having morning wood is a sign of ED, and I really don't have that. You just really fucking sucked that time when I gave you a chance to ride me, and that's when I lost the boner because you really weren't doing anything. You were just sitting on top and I'm just looking at you like, what the fuck are you doing? Until I had to push you off, and then that's when I had the boner to actually do what I had to do. and leave.
This was it, boo-boo. This was the position. My feet in this photo are firmly planted on the chair, on the bottom of the chair, which is precisely where they were planted that time that you supposedly allowed me to ride you. When it was my fucking offer, because I could see that the previous day, it was a harebrained idea of yours. While we were switching positions, I was in that position for a split second. And then you even laughed and said, I thought you were going to do it in that position. And I couldn't because the bed was wobbly. And we both know my headboard is now on the side of my bed because there isn't enough room for it in my new bedroom. You liar. My feet were on either side of your hips. I specifically asked you. I said, please sit in the middle so I can put my feet on either side of you. I had to repeat it because you get so nervous you can't fucking hear during sex. By the time that you actually asked to switch positions, and the reason was I was bleeding because I was on my period, and you wrote this in a text on Facebook talking about how it freaked you out. That's why we switched positions. I was way off your thighs. Like my ass was literally in the air and your hard cock was still in my pussy. It is not my fault that you could not feel my pussy, but I was holding it. I was holding up your numb dick. And not with my hands. At that point, remember well, my hands were literally on my bed, on the edge of my bed, which was where? Motherfucker, it was behind me. The chair was at the edge of the bed. That's where you were sitting. The bed, the edge of it was behind me. My hands were resting on the bed, like my arms literally behind my torso, while I was bouncing, quote unquote, bouncing on your numb dick. Sliding up and down and resting all of my weight on my hands that were on the bed behind me and on my feet that were on the chair that your lazy ass was sitting on. I didn't even mind you being lazy. I didn't mind that you didn't, thrust back and forth, which is what some men do. You just seemed like a deer in the headlights, to be honest.
But yeah, if you really wanna be on that ET tip, you can say that. I really don't give a shit, bro. Like, I really don't. See this is lit. This is lit. But what you were doing that day with all that weight, you were just sitting and you're just moving around, trying to like move your hips. This was not happening. This is what I like, not. So I hope you get the point.
Yeah. So Instagram just threw me for a loop. It's only upon editing this podcast that I am finding that this video has audio. When I played this video the first 5 or 6 times, analyzing it, trying to figure out what he was saying, there was no audio on it. Maybe I didn't check the volume, but I watched it as a silent film, and it was a horror for me to watch, because it really did seem that he was simulating that the circumference of my vulva, of the point of entrance in my vagina, is drastically wider than the circumference of his cock. And if you watch this video, if you watch this clip and you mute the audio, I think you would arrive at the same conclusion too. But okay, let's say that's not the point that he meant to make. Still, why not close your fingers that symbolize my vulva? Because you know very well that you have a hard time inserting, that I have to assist you a lot of the time because of the tension of the point of entrance. And so this visual simulation of his was really triggering for me, especially without sound. So I'm going to share with you my reaction to his video. I'll share the screenshots, and I think I have some voice notes as well in response to it, because I lost my shit over this video. And it really was the reason that I was having homicidal ideation about him. If he turns up missing, you can't use this as evidence. You know, it wasn't me. It's not a threat. But this video did make me that indignant, that enraged, that hurt, based on what I thought he was saying. It's only now that I'm hearing him in the audio saying, "I hope you get my point." Okay, fine. If our encounter had taken place the way that he says, this is the other thing, the simulation is still untrue. Even if he's not making the point that my vulva is too wide for his cock, he's making the point, as he explains in the video, that I was sitting on his scrotal sac, on his hips, like sitting firmly, that there was no space, no gap between my bums and his hips. And that's the thing. That's the thing that drives me bananas. That's the gaslighting. It was so drastically different. My position was so drastically different. That's why I used the visual aid of my Instagram post, because I took that photo for Instagram. It must have been a day after I had tried that sex position on him on the chair. I took the chair up to my bedroom and I tried it with him. And I was so happy with how it turned out that I took a picture for Instagram in a similar position. So I used that photo for him. There's no point jogging the memory of someone who is deliberately catching a case of amnesia. And not just amnesia, but channeling a completely different reality from the one that we shared. So, okay, fine. I didn't have to be angry about what I was initially angry about, which is when I thought he was body shaming me, body shaming my vagina, body shaming the size of my vagina, the quality of my vagina. Fair enough. That might not be what he was doing, but I could swear that it was subliminal. It was intended in the visual of his hand that was supposed to signify my vulva. I think he is evil enough to slide in that insult as well, and cowardly enough to not admit it or to not be explicit about it. So, okay, let's deal with the second scenario, which turns out to have been the case. How he is describing the way that I performed the sex act on him, it's completely dishonest. It's completely untrue. But I will discuss this further on in the podcast. Here's an example that I can make for how I feel about this particular incident, about the way that he's describing the way that I performed the sex act. Can you imagine being in phys ed class, physical education, and having the coach tell the class to do squats, and you do the squats, and you feel your thighs burn, you follow through with the exercise, And then maybe the next day when you have cramps from having ripped your quads the day before, and you have the coach and your classmates just like flat out deny that you did the squat. Imagine them telling you that, no, you were standing and resting your back against the wall the whole time. You just stood there and watched the rest of us do squats. Can you imagine how you would feel? And it would be called gaslighting. That's what it would be called. Because they would be changing the shared reality. So this is precisely what this guy is doing. He is describing something that happened in a completely untrue manner. And it's hurtful, but at the same time it's disturbing because it begs the question, why do you need to do things like this? Why do you need to play games like this? And then obviously I get to answer myself, because you don't like my self-esteem, because clearly my self-esteem is a cog in the machine of how you generate your own self-esteem. It's an obstacle to the mechanism by which you make yourself feel superior, feel in control and worthy. So I'm gonna go back in the screenshots to his text that started this argument. I know that in the voice notes he accuses me of having started this shit to justify being so mean-spirited. But the truth is he started it. He started it when he said, you need to learn how to fuck me. So it goes back to that example of physical education class that I was talking about. If, as the student, you had done the squat exactly the way the coach had instructed, and what you were doing looked exactly like what the rest of your classmates were doing, only for the next day to be told that you were doing something different. If we go back to that example, you can imagine, as a reasoning person, that the coach would stop you right there and then as you're resting against the wall standing while everyone else is doing squats, since squats are the subject here. The coach would have told you that's not how you do the exercise, and would have showed you how to do it if the problem had been that you don't understand how to perform the exercise. That's what would have happened. And so in our situation, in the bedroom, the two of us, if I was just sitting there, suffocating his scrotal sac, suffocating his cock, giving him pins and needles in his pelvis, because all of my weight is allegedly sitting on him. This session, let me just kiss and tell here. This session took maybe 5 to 8 minutes. 5 to 8 minutes that I was working in this position, in reverse missionary, on the chair. And not once did he say, could you raise yourself? I'm uncomfortable, or something. I mean, we all know by now that if we are having sex, if we deem ourselves old enough or mature enough to be having sex, then we need to be able to speak about it. We need to be able to say what we like and what we don't like. And in that moment, he didn't point out that I'm sitting on it and suffocating it and not doing anything, like a freaking platypus, like an inaction figure. If I was sitting still, do you really think that that moment would have lasted 5 to 8 minutes of me just sitting there being heavy and still? Is that plausible? Would it not have been unbearably awkward for the both of us, so that both of us would have wanted to cut the experience short? Like if I had found that I just don't have the energy or the strength to move. I am so old, all I can do is just sit on this boy and crush his bones. You really don't think that I would have had the dignity to get up off him and maybe take like a couple of weeks to do road work or whatever the case may be, so that I can move actually in that position? I mean, come on. Okay, so fine, he wasn't insulting me in the way that I thought and according to what I was responding to. However, he was still lying, like a drastic lie. A lie that's irreconcilable with the truth of what really unfolded that day. He's still gaslighting me, and that's very dangerous. This man has been gaslighting me since day one of our relationship, all because of erectile dysfunction. His erection was pretty weak, like pretty intermittent. There were just many interruptions on that first day, and he struggled to get to the finish line. I was having fun. I really was, because I'm in touch with my body and I enjoy my body and how it feels when it is stimulated by someone I like. But he just struggled to get to the point of ejaculation because he would lose his erection so many times. And I had compassion for that. And I made sure not to make things awkward. And then we were texting in the days that followed, and my feelings had been hurt. They'd been hurt on the day that we had sex, because even though I was being such a good sport about these interruptions, this failing erection, he clearly was very anxious about it, to the point that he said the reason that he was having a hard time coming to climax is that he doesn't like me as much as he thought he had. That's literally what he said to me. He said it to me, to my face, on the bed, like seconds after the act. Like minutes after the act, straight after we had dressed up, this is what he had to say about me giving him my intimacy, giving him my body, giving him just about the most precious thing that I can give him. And that's what he had to say about it. So that was the first time that I asked to never see him again. And then he came back the same day to apologize, and was calling me and saying he wants to fix things. He came back that day in the afternoon, and he said that he was rather having spiritual issues. But he couldn't explain what those spiritual issues were. So I don't know. I don't know if he thinks that his erectile problems, his erectile dysfunction has a supernatural or paranormal aspect to it. I mean, it's a common belief in our culture. We do get Swati men a lot of the time accusing their partners, even accusing the women in their lives of putting spells on them that prevent them from being able to sustain an erection with the love rival of that woman, in order to prevent them from cheating. I've had, because it wasn't my first time seeing a man with erectile dysfunction. In 2019, I was with somebody who was convinced that his ex was doing this to me. And so while he's floundering on top of me, he's cussing out his ex, and I'm rolling my eyes because I'm thinking, just deal with the stress in your life. Just ride it out, you know. Do your lifestyle changes, etc. Because I don't really think it's sustainable taking pharmaceuticals like Viagra and Viagra generics, although I have researched that can be a course of treatment, but that it has to be, I mean, it's got to be done by a serious professional. It's not something that you can self-medicate with Viagra and its generic forms. You can't self-medicate with Viagra and its generic forms. It's something that you need a specialist in the male sex organs and possibly endocrinology, hormonal health, a specialist in hormonal health, you know, to help them with the dosing and the length of the treatment and monitoring, etc. So, I mean, erectile dysfunction is common and it's treatable. It's nothing to laugh at. That's why my initial way of dealing with this condition has just been to be quiet about it and just work around it. I don't say I'm in love with him or I was in love with him, so I just worked around it, just like I spun around that cock that could not feel me. That's just what I did. But when he said to me, you being me, when he said to me that I need to learn how to fuck him, then I was, you see, I think if I hadn't been compassionate and maybe if I'd just been frank about it from the jump and been like, yo, you didn't lose your erection on day one of us having sex because you don't like me enough. That's not true. You have erectile dysfunction. So don't now make me doubt my attractiveness or my value. You know, don't hurt my self-esteem because of an issue that you're too embarrassed to confront. That is to say, I would have kept quiet about it for the rest of our lives. I really would have. I would have had babies with him and lived with him and traveled with him and done all of the romantic, wonderful things that I want to do in a relationship. It never would have bothered me. I really, benqinisela quite happily. I was okay. I was fine. I didn't feel unlucky. I didn't feel like my relationship is difficult or stressful or weird because of his erectile dysfunction. I didn't. Just because sex is not central in my experience of loving. It's not central. And this is something he's had a hard time understanding. I've said it so many times, but he seems to think that pleasing me sexually is the most vital thing that he needs to do. And it's just not. It's just not. Being kind, being honest, being truthful, being brave to deal with the things that are embarrassing, being trusting me to know that I'm not going to laugh at you, I'm not going to think any less of you. That's what I needed. But it's all water under the bridge now. Anyway, don't fix it. Don't seek help. Stay wispy. Stay in constant, touch and go erections. Stay like that. You know who doesn't really give a fuck? It's me. Because I ain't got to deal with it no more. I'm just gonna feel free to educate you for free. Okay? Maybe I'll put forward an invoice by the time I'm done. But go back to whatever Google source that you read about erectile dysfunction, because your morning wood point is moot. It's a non-factor. Okay, that's not the definition of ED. Erectile dysfunction means your erectile tissue, which is at the bottom of the shaft of your cock, right along from your scrotal sac, your balls, right up to the tip of the cock. That's where a healthy dick is the most sensitive. That is where it's able to know what's going on. That's what enables it to find the pussy hole, which you have a hard time doing. Okay? So erectile dysfunction is numbness. That's the primary definition. And that is a problem that you admitted to. I didn't make this up.
Always watch your back. Shit.